The biggest risk is that he dies.
The biggest risk is that he dies.
The biggest risk is that he dies.
All right. We are talking SpaceX IPO, the biggest IPO of all time. And there's a lot of smart analysis out there. This ain't that. SpaceX builds rockets. They build rockets, ideally rapidly reusable rockets, and they can take stuff into space. Do you know their business model? So they have launches, they have Starlink, they have X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, and then they have XAI. Companies going public right now, it's the largest IPO in history. They dominate the launch category. Now, what do they launch? They take satellites up into space. They take satellites for the government, but they also, I think about 40% of their launches are just for their own satellites for this product called Starlink. Starlink is basically internet service. Specifically, it's really great at giving you internet in places that have shitty internet. And this Starlink business is gangbusters. So it is basically up like, it's quadrupled in the last 2 years. They have 10 million paying subscribers to Starlink internet. The Starlink business has like all of the wonderful characteristics of a business. There's no competitors. They have an extreme cost advantage. It's recurring revenue. It's extremely high margin. And it's a product that everybody on Earth, essentially needs, is the internet. So Starlink is very, very interesting as like, that's the cash cow of this business. Well, in the US, there's, probably tens of millions of people who will be subscribers to this, maybe like another 30, 40, 50 million on top of the 10 million that they already have. But then they have this other thing called direct to sell. They basically can now do Starlink from the satellite direct to your cell phone. And so in areas where you have crappy reception, you'll still be able to send text messages. You'll still be able to download some data. You'll still be able to make a phone call. And so they're basically looking at this like whether they launch their own T-Mobile or it's this little add-on to every cell phone plan on Earth where it's like, oh yeah, and for an extra $3 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, like you just have guaranteed coverage everywhere. When you don't have good service, it falls back to satellite service. So that's kind of like the kind of core business. They got so good at launching rockets that it became cheaper and cheaper. I think they basically brought the cost of taking like a kilogram to space down by 50 or 100x what it was pre-SpaceX. And they keep doing that. So wherever they are today, when they have their new rocket, Starship, it's gonna be half of what it currently is. Then you say, well, what's the next unlock? It's all about data centers in space.
We're colonizing the moon or Mars or something like that. But I also think like, is there not enough room here?
But the real problem is literally just red tape. There is so much regulation and so much anti-data center backlash that the people who even have the money and the engineering chops and the power and the reserved equipment to be able to build, they can't build. Well, I guess we'll just go to build it in space then. I don't even want to talk to it. Like I want so little to do with politics that I'd rather build this in space and I'd deal with the engineering. So the big risk of this company right now is, are they going to be able to build something called Starship? It's like their big ass rocket, way bigger than the Falcon 9. And so they haven't yet been able to get Starship to work. They're building it, they're testing it. It's taking years.
That tends to be a foolish bet.
Yeah, betting against Elon's technical ability has proven to be like the most unprofitable bet you could make. Even if you're right for a year or two, you're eventually wrong. And so one bet is the Starship thing ever gonna happen? And then if so, there's another set of doubt or risk or uncertainty, which is, can you even do data centers in space? Is this even gonna work? One of the reasons you put it in space is not just the red tape, it's the cost. Who could be the low cost provider of tokens? And basically, if you look at when you have a satellite in space, it's powered by the sun. You don't need any cooling because space has space is basically freezing cold. And that basically streaming AI tokens from space is gonna be far cheaper and more effective than any land build out of data centers and then figuring out how to transmit those.
What about Twitter and XAI?
So Twitter's ad business is 40% the size of old Twitter. X advertising is at 1.8 billion now. It's down 100 million from last year. And it's half of what the ad revenue was before he bought it in 2021, 5 years ago. He added subscriptions and payments, whatever. So that's now $1 billion in ARR. So the total is 2.8 billion and it was 4.5 when he bought it. Stuff has not quite worked. And then he tried Grok. Now Grok is falling behind Anthropic and ChatGPT, and Grok has 100 million users, whereas ChatGPT has 1 billion, so 10 times smaller. break it down. Starlink is the part that makes money, XAI is the part that burns it, and the rockets are the railroads in between. You're not buying SpaceX, you're buying 3 different companies that are stapled together. You have the space launch business, the internet connectivity business, and the AI business. So $18 billion in revenue, losing $2.5 billion, 6.6 of adjusted EBITDA. They burned $8 billion of cash last year. This is the Starlink business, so it grew from 2 million subscribers to 10 million subscribers, but you can see like it is starting to slow down. And that the average revenue per paying user, as they go into like more third world use cases of who needs internet where they have low connectivity, obviously they can't charge as much. They dominate the rocket business, 85% of all launches, 80% of all mass to orbit. Everything is dependent on Starship, which is not a guarantee. And that's the big question. Is the AI Charlie Munger conclusion. It's a great business. You can admire it from afar. You didn't need to own it. It was the conclusion that he had. You'd need to believe that the Starlink business alone, which is at 11 billion in revenue, is probably going to grow to 30, 40, 50 billion in revenue. You'd need to believe that Starship works. You need to believe that data centers in space are going to be a thing. Pessimists get to be right and optimists get to be rich. If you hang out in Silicon Valley long enough, you realize that pessimism is a losing strategy when you're around innovation and technology. It pays to be an optimist. You get that normalization of what's not normal. And, because I think part of this is like, it's just Elon glazing and it's SpaceX glazing. But like another part of it is like, damn, this dude literally called his shot 20 years ago. And then today is the biggest tech IPO in history. You have to, respect that. And also like, forget about how good it is for them, but like, let it break your frame a little bit so that in your life, when opportunities strike or an idea comes, you don't count yourself out. You don't miss that opportunity. You don't ignore what's in front of you, and you actually take action.
This is crazy, man. It goes back to the factor, like the biggest risk is that he dies. That's the
biggest risk is that he dies.
The biggest risk is that he dies.
Like, can he make Starship work? Can he make an orbital data center work? It's like, we think the higher risk is just that he dies. It's like in the probabilities game, we're like, I don't know, the bigger risk seems like that.
But the one thing that is true is that he's a challenging person to bet against. And so all these science fiction-y things, I think that he's bad at timelines, but I think he's good at doing it eventually.
Okay, well, the Glaze Fest is over.
So
if you hated Elon, we're sorry.
All right, that's it. That's the pod.